The United States government will give you a lighthouse for free, a real one. Historic, iconic, standing on the water, the kind people drive for hours to photograph. Under a federal law passed in 2000, dozens of them have been handed to towns, to non-profits, and to ordinary private citizens for nothing. And the ones that are not given away go to public auction, where a few have sold for as little as $10,000. It sounds like the greatest real estate deal in America. Free, or nearly free, and it is a lighthouse. It is not. Those free ones are free for a reason. They sit miles out in open water, reachable only by boat or helicopter, where salt and storms chew through everything you own, and they come chained to a federal covenant that legally forces you to restore and maintain them forever. One owner was staring at a $400,000 bill just to fix a single power cable. So what does free actually cost? Why is the government so desperate to give these away? And why do the lighthouses people actually want sell for real money, while the free ones cannot be given away at any price? 2 doors into this, and they could not be more different. Door 1 is free. Under the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act of 2000, the Coast Guard declares a lighthouse surplus, and the government offers it at no cost to a state, a city, a non-profit, or an educational group that promises to preserve it and open it to the public. You pay nothing for the building. Door 2 is auction. When no qualified group wants a lighthouse or none can afford it, the property goes to public auction, open to any private individual with the cash. Since the program began, about 70 lighthouses have sold this way, raising over $10 million, with prices running from $10,000 all the way up to nearly $1 million. So why is the government handing out lighthouses at all? One word: automation. Once satellite navigation and automatic lights made human keepers unnecessary, the Coast Guard was left holding hundreds of aging towers it no longer needed, and every one of them costs money to keep standing. Giving them away is cheaper than maintaining them, and here is the split that decides everything. People fight over the pretty, accessible, on-land lighthouses. The offshore towers stuck out in the open water. Nobody will take those even for free. Take a lighthouse, free or bought, and 4 things come attached. First, the covenant. Most of these transfers carry a preservation covenant, a legal obligation to maintain the lighthouse to the historic standards set by the Secretary of the Interior and to submit to inspections proving you did. You cannot renovate it however you please, and if you let it decay, you can lose it. You are not buying freedom. You are signing a contract to serve the building. Second, the location. Salt spray, storms, and erosion attack a lighthouse every single day, and most have no road to them at all. Every worker, every bag of mortar, every tool arrives by boat or by helicopter, at several times what the same job would cost on the mainland. Third, the light itself. That beacon on top is very often still an active aid to navigation, owned and run by the Coast Guard. So you own the tower, they own the light inside it, and you are required to give them access to it whenever they need. And fourth, the ground under it. On an offshore light, you can own the tower and still have to lease the land or the seabed beneath it from the state. An extra bill for standing where you already stand. 5 ways a lighthouse can pay, and every one depends on people being able to reach it. Number 1. Tourism. An accessible lighthouse can charge admission as a museum, and the good ones draw real crowds. Number 2. Overnight stays. People will pay a serious premium to sleep in a lighthouse, so the keeper's quarters become a vacation rental. Number 3. Weddings and events. A lighthouse with grounds is a photographer's dream, and couples pay for the setting. Number 4. A bed and breakfast in the old keeper's cottage, the romance of the light with a hot breakfast attached. Number 5. The gift shop, the guided tours, and the filming location fees when a movie wants that perfect beacon on the cliff. Now notice the problem. Every one of those needs visitors who can physically get there. The offshore towers, the ones out in the water, can do almost none of it. Their revenue is close to zero, which is exactly why they are the free ones. A lighthouse gets given away for free, and free is the single most expensive word in the entire deal. Here is why. A lighthouse becomes free precisely when nobody wants it. When it is the remote, decaying, offshore tower that costs a fortune to reach, a fortune to repair, and comes wrapped in a covenant that legally forces you to keep spending on it year after year. You did not get a free lighthouse. You got a free obligation. Listen to that again. Now the lighthouses that can actually earn, the accessible ones on land, near tourists, those go to auction and sell for real money, some for close to $1 million. The free ones, the ones nobody wanted, are free because they cannot earn a single cent. In lighthouses, the price tag and the cost of ownership run in opposite directions. Cheaper to buy tends to mean more to own. A lighthouse that sells for nearly $1 million is telling you it can make money. A lighthouse the government cannot give away is telling you it will only ever take money. And that gap between the auction stars and the free burdens is the whole business. So what does it cost to keep one standing? Start with restoration, masonry, ironwork, the lantern room, the tower structure. A full historic restoration, done to the required standards, can run into the millions on a single lighthouse. Then the access tax. Because so many sit offshore or on rock, every crew and every load of material has to come by boat or helicopter, which multiplies the price of ordinary work several times over. Then maintenance that never stops, because the salt never stops. Constant repainting, repointing, and rust treatment, just to hold the line against the sea. Then utilities, which often do not exist. One Maine lighthouse faced a $400,000 bill just to repair the underwater cable that brought it power, and without that cable, no heat, and mold creeping through the keeper's house, and running underneath all of it, the covenant compliance. Approved contractors, historic grade materials at historic grade prices, and inspections you must pass. One of the cheapest assets to buy in America can be one of the most expensive things in the country to maintain. Here is the trap, in one sentence. This gift is a lien with a light on top. Follow the logic. You take a lighthouse for free, or nearly free. That covenant then legally requires you to preserve it to federal standards forever. You can barely earn from it, and if it is offshore, you cannot earn from it at all. And if you finally give up and stop maintaining it, you do not walk away clean. Instead, the property reverts to the government, and you lose it, after you have already poured a fortune into it. A free asset you are legally bound to spend on, that generates almost nothing, and that you cannot easily sell. That is not a gift. That is a trap with a beautiful view. To understand why these lighthouses are suddenly free, meet the last man who kept one by hand. His name was Frank Schubert, and he was the last civilian lighthouse keeper in America. He took over the Coney Island Light in Brooklyn in 1960, and he never left. For decades, a keeper like Frank lived in every lighthouse in the country, tending the beacon and the fog signal by hand. Frank climbed 87 steps to the lantern every single day, ran a 1,000-pound fog bell, and was credited over his career with saving 15 lives. Then the machines arrived. In 1989, his lighthouse was automated, the keeper replaced by equipment that needed no salary and no cottage to live in. Across the country, one by one, the keepers were retired and the lights were left to run themselves. Frank refused to go. He stayed on as caretaker, still climbing those 87 steps, until he died in 2003 at the age of 88, the last of his kind. When he was gone, the era of the human keeper was over. And that is precisely why you can get a lighthouse for free today. And the moment a machine the size of a suitcase could do the keeper's job, the Coast Guard was left with hundreds of towers it no longer needed, aging in the salt, costing money just to sit there. So it began giving them away. The free lighthouse exists because the job of loving one full-time was automated out of existence. Now the story that tells you everything, and it starts with the best price in real estate history. Penfield Reef Lighthouse sits off the coast of Connecticut, out in Long Island Sound. In 2008, the government transferred it to a non-profit called Beacon Preservation. It went for $1. $1 for a historic offshore lighthouse. It sounds impossible to lose on a deal like that. But owning it meant leasing the bottomlands, the ground beneath the lighthouse, from the state. An ongoing cost on top of restoring an offshore tower the group could not realistically afford. And so Beacon Preservation gave it back. They relinquished the $1 lighthouse, and it fell back into the system, until years later, the government put it up for public auction instead. Sit with that for a moment. A preservation non-profit could not make a free lighthouse work. Even at a purchase price of $1 single, the ongoing cost of owning an offshore light was too heavy to carry. That is the entire business in one story. That purchase price was never the problem. It was $1. Everything after the purchase is what breaks you. 5 habits, straight out of everything you just saw. Habit 1. Buy accessible, never offshore. A lighthouse you can drive or walk to can become a museum, a rental, a wedding venue. A tower stuck in open water is a trophy, not a business, and it will only ever cost you. Habit 2. Bring the restoration money before you sign, not after. The covenant starts the day you take the keys, and the bills start with it. Habit 3. Use the non-profit model, not your own wallet. Grants, volunteers, admissions, and public goodwill are how these actually survive. One owner, Craig Morrison, took on Execution Rock's lighthouse this way, forming a non-profit and running it as a preservation project rather than a private home. Habit 4. Pick a lighthouse with tourists already flowing past it. That traffic has to be there before you buy, because you cannot create it from a rock in the sea. Habit 5. If it is offshore, only take it if you can afford to lose money on it forever, as a passion. Never as an investment, because as an investment it does not work. Both ends, clearly. Take the Goodyear. An accessible, restored lighthouse with tourist traffic runs as a museum, rents rooms overnight, hosts weddings, and sells souvenirs, and it can cover its costs and even turn a profit, while holding real value as a one-of-a-kind property. Auction lighthouses that fetch 6 figures earn those prices because they can earn a living. Now the bad year. A free offshore tower costs millions to restore, brings in nothing, binds you to a covenant, and reverts to the government the moment you stop paying. Remember, a non-profit could not even make a $1 lighthouse work. Look at the two ends side by side. An accessible lighthouse running as a bed and breakfast, earning money, valued and loved. And a free offshore light, which is really just a covenant and a repair bill, worth less than the single dollar somebody paid for it. Same word. Opposite economics. The free one is the expensive one. So does it work? Yes. If you buy a lighthouse you can actually reach, with a real revenue plan and a restoration budget ready before you start. And no, if you take a free offshore tower believing that free means cheap, because free is the most expensive word on the whole coast. Every part of this points at one strange truth. The government will hand you a lighthouse for nothing, and that nothing is the most expensive word in American real estate. Keepers who used to live in these towers, Frank Schubert and the men like him, were replaced by a machine the size of a suitcase, and the beacons they tended by hand became liabilities that nobody wanted to hold. Lighthouses people still fight over sell for real money because they can earn. The ones offered for free are free for one reason only. They cannot. You never really owned the lighthouse. You signed up to spend a fortune, and quite possibly the rest of your life, keeping a monument standing on a rock in the sea, in exchange for the right to say that it is yours. The light was always free to look at. The tower is the expensive part, and when the government gives one away, it knows exactly what it is handing you.